Steven Adler left the band this week in the middle of recording sessions for the group's next album. According to Guns N' Roses management, Adler departed because he wanted to work with guitarist Andy McCoy, best known as Michael Monroe's partner in Hanoi Rocks, a group much admired by Guns N' Roses. Adler's replacement is California drummer Matt Sorum from The Cult. Since bassist Jamie Stewart had also left The Cult recently, that band is now reduced to a duo of singer Ian Astbury and guitarist Billy Duffy.
It's 8:01. I'm Kevin the Ref.
And on KRQR's Lobster Breakfast right now, an announcement we've been waiting to give you. Guns N' Roses headline the Warfield tonight.
Yeah, Frisco, this is Slash from Guns N' Roses. Screw the rumors, and for those not in the know, Guns N' Roses is playing at the Warfield tonight. Tickets are first come, first served at the Warfield box office only.
Within minutes, of course, fans began lining up outside San Francisco's 2,000-seat Warfield Theater, all of them waiting for the hottest ticket in town.
Oh my God, Guns N' Roses is coming. The guy on the radio was saying, I said, yeah, I'm there.
We had to cut school and everything, but it'll be worth it. Axel's the master.
I'm bringing my 14-year-old son. It's how we bond. Rock and roll.
I thought for sure there's no way to get tickets once it was announced, but since the Warfield managed this so well, there's a good chance that we're in, and just really pleased.
San Francisco promoter Bill Graham, who's led the fight against ticket scalping in California, was responsible for the orderly sale of tickets to this show. Graham made sure to announce the tickets the day of the surprise show, giving scalpers no time to horn in. And he set up other special measures.
When you get inside, you sign your name to a voucher. Tonight, you bring that voucher back, you sign it back again, and you get your ticket plus one. And you can bring your loved one, a friend, your child. But there's no way to scalp this show.
So with no hitches and no scalping, the tickets were sold, the sun went down, the fans took their seats, and Guns N' Roses blew them away.
The show is fantastic. Guns N' Roses are going to be sweet in 91.
They're at it again. Guns N' Roses played another warm-up gig for their upcoming tour. This time, the Guns rocked New York City. Fans lined up around the block for the sold-out show, which wasn't announced until that day.
We are totally sold out. If you don't have tickets or vouchers, please move across the street or down the block.
The same ticket scalping prevention measures that were taken on the West Coast were enforced in New York. Bracelets were given out in the morning, and then fans had to come back later and get a voucher instead of tickets.
Everybody who got a voucher is a real fan. You know, there's no chance for scalpers to scalp a voucher because they have to go in with their pictured ID.
These gigs give the band a chance to work out material from their two new albums coming out mid-July, both called Use Your Illusion. The album cover painting is credited to New York art entrepreneur Mark Kostabi, whose work is actually created by his underlings. But Guns frontman Axl Rose doesn't mind.
I just really like the piece of artwork. I don't know if I approve or disapprove, but I can see the humor in it.
The band has two new additions for the tour. Keyboardist Dizzy Reed and former Cult drummer Matt Sorum, who replaced a drug-battling Steven Adler.
San Francisco, Los Angeles, and New York have now gotten sneak previews to the Guns' new lineup. Their first official kickoff date is next Friday in Alpine Valley, Wisconsin. We'll see if they turn up anywhere else before then.
Whatever happens, we'll be bringing you opening date Guns N' Roses coverage starting next Saturday night at 10 p.m. The band's two new albums, both called Use Your Illusion and featuring two songs sung by guitarist Izzy Stradlin, a tune called You Could Be Mine from the soundtrack of the upcoming Terminator 2, a cover of Paul McCartney's James Bond theme Live and Let Die, and the song about Axl Rose's neighbor problems called Right Next Door to Hell will be out in July.
They have been big fans of Terminator and have expressed that many times. And so I have been a fan of their music. So we checked into what it would be like to do a video together or to get some of the music.
What worked out really cool is we wanted to put out a version of a song, You Could Be Mine. shot a video for it. We filmed the show in the Ritz, and then, you know, I guess Arnold was flying back from Congress. I'm going, I want to be in the video. We hung out we got along really, really well. And he gave the whole band jackets from the movie, and these great French leather biker jackets, right? With bullet holes everywhere.
No problemo.
He's really cool. Kind of real soft-spoken. Nice guy.
Hasta la vista, baby.
We shot some footage of us coming out of the dressing room, or the stage door at the Roxy in LA, where we come face to face with Arnold in his Terminator gear. And it was all pretty funny, and we were pretty rotted by that point.
If Guns N' Roses are the Rolling Stones of their generation, a large part of the reason is W. Axl Rose, who may be the most exciting and charismatic singer of the current hard rock era. Born William Bailey and raised in Lafayette, Indiana, Rose started out singing gospel music. But after butting heads with local authorities, he hitchhiked to Los Angeles, hooked up with his old friend guitarist Izzy Stradlin, and over the course of a couple of years put together Guns N' Roses with drummer Steven Adler, bassist Duff McKagan, and a powerful guitarist named Slash. The band's 1987 debut album, Appetite for Destruction, and its controversial 1988 EP, G&R Lies, have sold more than 12 million copies. But there have been problems. Drugs, as Rose himself noted during an onstage tirade during a show with the Rolling Stones last year, and with internal relationships, which led to the departure of Steven Adler several weeks ago, and his replacement by drummer Matt Sorum of The Cult. But the group has continued working away on its long-awaited new album, a 5 LP set containing nearly 2.5 hours worth of music, which should be out early next year, and which Rose predicts will be the really great album he's always known the band had in it.
You had mentioned you had some goals for this record. I mean, you guys are in the position where you're the hard rock band in the country, if probably not the world. Where do you go next? And what are you trying to demonstrate?
There's lots of kinds of material. Basically, with all kinds of different reactions in the press and this and that, it was kind of like the only way to show where we've been and to make ourselves happy was to just try to put it all out. Try to put all the material out at once, which, 148 minutes, that hasn't really been done. I mean, Springsteen put out a 5-album box set, but it was live. It had been done over the years. Most of this is new material, and there's a couple cover tunes in it.
Is this album going to be also mixed up like G&R Lies? There's going to be a lot of acoustic stuff on it, too? Are there going to be different stylistic things going on?
Yeah, there'll be a few acoustic things. There'll be some songs that are acoustic going into electric, back to acoustic and stuff like that. I actually play guitar on a couple songs for the first time. I can only play 2 strings, but it's some pretty cool punk rock type stuff.
So when's this album going to come out, can you say? Or are you still
We're hoping the beginning of the year, January, February, and we're looking at March as starting a tour. Yeah. That's what the plan is.
Well, how come Steven left the band at this critical juncture?
Steven didn't leave the band.
Or how come you and
Steven was fired.
Oh, okay.
Steven, we gave him every ultimatum. We tried working with other drummers. We had Steven sign a contract saying if he went back to drugs, then he was out. Yeah. He couldn't leave his drugs. And other things have happened involved with Steven, that Steven is basically someone I used to know. It makes me feel bad, but there's other things beside the band that he was involved in with his drugs that have been very dangerous and scary, and that I want nothing to do with him.
Is that what you were talking about when you were opening for the Rolling Stones in L.A. last year? And you said somebody in this band has been dancing with Mr. Brownstone or something like that?
Oh, there was... majority of the band was at that time, or too much alcohol, or too much something. Me, I was eating too much or whatever, and just sitting on my ass too much.
Yeah. How's it going with the new drummer? Is he fitting right in? Or it must be very hard at this point to bring somebody new into the band, isn't it?
It was a miracle. Yeah. He has saved the band's life. He came in, he's in an up mood, he works, he writes his own material. Yeah. He writes a lot. He works real well with us. He takes suggestions well, he keeps everybody in line, keeps the timing great. Mm-hmm. He played 29 songs in a month.
Yeah. Did you consider that valid when people say, well, you're up there in front of kids, you have to set a good example? I mean, a lot of people say, well, no, I'm an artist. I don't have to set an example. I just do my art. I mean, how do you feel about that?
It's real tricky. When our first major tour was with Motley Crue, and the audience was younger than most audiences we played, like on the Aerosmith tour or on other tours or our own tours and the tours with the Cult. And it was real hard to do the song It's So Easy.
Yeah.
Because there's a line in there, I drink and drive and everything's in sight. We were talking about kind of how we got away with things and we're lucky to be here. It was real hard knowing that some of these kids would just go out and go, yeah, I drink and drive, everything's inside. I mean, Izzy put it best when he said, a lot of people think our record means, you know, party and do cocaine and rock and roll, and it's like, and that just ain't what it is. Yeah. And so Izzy was going to quit at one time because he didn't like the way people were reacting to it. Heard something on the radio last night when Frank Zappa broke up the Mothers. It was because people were clapping for all the wrong reasons. Yeah. It's hard when you know that you're doing your material and the audience, a majority of your audience, isn't getting what you meant.
But you had mentioned there's something on a song on this album that's coming up that might cause some problems, you think? Is there anything?
There's a song called Coma that is like 11 minutes and 45 seconds long with no chorus. Okay. And I think there was only one verse that like somewhat repeats itself. It's Slash's Baby. It's his monster. The song used to be called Girth. But I started writing about when I OD'd 4 years ago, and the reason I OD'd was because of stress. I couldn't take it. Yeah. And I just grabbed this bottle of pills in an argument and just gulped them down. Yeah. And I ended up in the hospital. But I liked that I wasn't in the fight anymore. And I was fully conscious that I was leaving. Yeah. I liked that. But then I go, all of a sudden my first real thoughts though were that, okay, you haven't toured enough, the record's not going to last, it's going to be forgotten, and this and that, you have work to do, get out of this. And I went, no, and I woke up, you know, and pulled myself out of it. But in the describing of that, some people could take it wrong and think this means go put yourself into a coma. Yeah. You know, and so it's really tricky, and I'm still playing with the words to figure out how to like show some hope in there.
Yeah. Well, you seem to have, I mean, from a couple of years ago, like ODing on pills, you've come a long way since then. Do you feel more settled down now and seem pretty relaxed and together?
Yeah, but it's been a lot of work to do that because there's, you know, we got used to, like, as the Eagles would say, everything all the time, and you know, living that way and going for it, and all of a sudden you started to and then that's what got us here. That's what got us signed. That's what got us on top of things. And then you got to a point where you go, wait a minute, everything that got me here is also starting to I'm starting to self-destruct. It's starting to tear up my life. I have to figure out how to channel my energies other directions. It's a weird one. Settling down is a weird one, you know.
Do you think it's just a function of like getting older and learning more and being more aware of what's going on?
It's realizing there's life after, you know, 21, life after 25, life after 27, you know. 27 was the hardest year. I met Prince and I was talking with Prince and he was like, how old are you? 28? And he goes, you know, last year was the hardest, wasn't it? And he was saying how 27 is like the bitch. It's the hardest year. Really? 27 was definitely my hardest year.
Well, it's all behind you now.
Yeah, it's still a mess, but like I'm used to when it gets a mess. Yeah.
All right, what do you do? Well, let's take Two Live Crew as an example. I mean, this has been a good and a bad year for them. What do you make of the fact that in the United States for the first time, a record can be declared illegal, essentially? I mean,
I think it's crazy. I mean, I think it's like, you know, saying the Diary of Anne Frank, you know, influences people in a bad way or something, or the dictionary that if it has a definition for a four-letter word is in a bad way. I mean, there was an article in Penthouse magazine saying that if you want to like point fingers and say what influences people in a bad way and most powerful influence and like what damage has been done, it's like the Bible has caused more wars and death than anything by people reacting to it however they feel they should react to this. More than any other book, you know? So unless you're going to get rid of Shakespeare, unless you're going to get rid of the Bible and things like that, back off. And, you know, I'm sorry if it makes your job of raising your kids a little bit harder. Maybe, you know, you should have thought about that beforehand, before you had your kids. So.
I mean, do you think you'd feel different about this after you had a kid?
No. No, not even if I had a kid and he did something because the record said do it. Yeah. You know, I don't think I would feel different at all, because I think